You may be wondering, Pastor, why is this important? I want to lay a solid foundation so you can be able to properly understand the concept of the purpose of man. But before we talk about the purpose of man, we must first understand the word purpose and what it means. And so there are four key principles about man I want you to know. Number one, man is a created being. Genesis identifies the creator to be God. Key number two is a man is both created and made. A man is both created and made. Scripture says that man is created in the image and likeness of God, but Genesis 2:7 let us know that he was made of flesh, made of clay. It says God formed the man from dust. Key number three, I'm going to stay here at key number three a little bit. Key number three is man must submit to the original law of environment. Everything that functions on earth functions by law. If you've been studying the book of Job, you would realize that nothing happens by happenstance. What we think is just happenstance is actually functioning based on the law and order of God. Everything functions by law. And so God created everything in a way that it must submit to a law. And there is a law of purpose and there is a law of environment. Somebody say law of environment. And so key number three is man must submit to the original law of environment. And I'm going to teach you a little bit about the law of environment. There are 5 laws of environment. 5 laws. Law number 1 states that from whence it came is where it functions best. Law number 1, from whence it came is where it functions best. You see, God told the earth in Genesis chapter 1 verse 11, it says, and God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. And it was so. In verse 20, God said, let the waters swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the heavens. Then in verse 24, God said, let the earth bring forth. Do you notice a trend there? How God keeps on speaking to the earth to produce after its kind. God speaks to the water to produce after its kind. In other words, God speaks to the environment and tell the environment produce after you. But when it came to human beings, he did not speak to gas. He didn't speak to angels. He didn't even speak to earth. He didn't speak to waters. He didn't speak to plants. He did not speak to the universe. He spoke to himself. Somebody say God spoke to himself. He says, let us make man in our own image and likeness. In other words, I want to make man in this environment called image and likeness. I want to make man in this environment because this environment is the one that is going to be the best fitted for man. The image and likeness is God's spirit. When you're dealing with the image and likeness of God, you cannot define God by human characteristics, because if you try to, then God would be a very funny looking person. In other words, he will be black, white, Hispanic, Asian. He will be tall, fat, skinny. He will be all kinds of things. But John chapter 4 from verse 24, Jesus spoke to the woman at the well and he said, God is a spirit.